Welcome to a new year and a change to the podcast for 2026. You've probably noticed the new name and the new look, but it's just the same me, just bringing you the same message, but in a slightly different way. Now, in this episode, I'll be covering the things that you need to be doing with your content in 2026 and how you can bring this to the world with a lightness, a clarity, and intuition that makes content creation a whole heap easier. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to this week's episode of the Content with Heart podcast. It's the 200th podcast episode that I've ever created for you, but the very first episode of the new name, New Look podcast. So, welcome. Episode 200 felt like a really good number to start on, and I hope you think so too. The podcast is now also available on YouTube, so a huge hello if you're watching along today rather than just listening to the audio. Now, if you listened to the trailer last week, episode 199, you'll know that I'm aiming for a less polished, more lighter content because in 2025, the podcast was feeling really heavy to me. And I know that I'm not the only one who has ever felt this way about their content. So if you are feeling it too, if you're feeling a little bit heavy, a little bit burdened, a bit overwhelmed, not sure where to start, then I invite you to take a deep breath right now. I want you to acknowledge that content might feel heavy. It might feel noisy. It might feel a little messy. It might even be something that you think you should be doing more of. Now, think about the energy that you took into the end of the year with your content, and usually that's around feeling overwhelmed, tired, confused, and questioning really what you want to take from last year and if you want to carry forward any of that. So think about shaking off that energy because I want you to take into 2026 the idea that your content can have clarity, it can have lightness, it can even be easy, and it can be more reflective of who you are as a human on so many different levels. And we'll talk about that more today. So what I'm going to share with you in this episode is how you can really start to embrace that energy of lightness and easiness, whatever you've chosen, and really run with that momentum through 2026. I'm not going to be sharing any trends, any tactics, any specific platforms that you should be on, because what your content really needs from you in 2026 is you, the beautiful you. I'm personally really curious to see how my desire for lightness and easiness in what I share and how I share it is going to manifest. What is that actually going to look like? And how changes in other areas of my life that will impact my time, energy, and resources will impact it as well. So in a world that is driven by AI, screens, digital content, fake news, we really need to lean into our desire for human contact. I really encourage you to do that, whatever that looks like for you and however that can manifest for you. So in 2025, for me, that meant going out and getting casual jobs so I could talk to people face to face again, so I could interact with other humans, so I could help them, so I could learn their stories. So whatever that looks like for you, I want you to lean into the idea that human connection is so important for you as a heart-led entrepreneur. And I've really spoken to many women, in particular my members in the Content Effect, who finished 2025 feeling really flat or disconnected from content. And that's not unusual. I mean, the end of the year is usually a very busy time for us. And here in Australia, we're thinking about, ending school and going into the summer holidays and Christmas and entertaining and seeing family and friends and all of the things. It's really understandable that you do feel disconnected and that you can't see how that is going to change, especially when the new year ticks over. And that's, I get that. I really do, because starting a new year then often brings a new level of pressure to have new plans in place, new goals, new strategies, new expectations, new directions, pivots even, and even a new you. We are constantly bombarded with all of those messages. So as a result of that, we then start thinking, am I good enough? Am I good enough right now with who I am and what I'm doing? Should I be more visible? And why does my content feel hard or feel harder than it actually used to? But the reality is that content doesn't really need more from you. We keep thinking that we need to pull from an already empty bucket or steal time and energy from something else in our lives to make it happen. But I don't think that that's the right idea. Your content needs something different, not more. So if we kind of flip our perspective and look at the fact that content is there to support you, support your goals, your desires, your incomes, and it shouldn't be seen as another source of pressure, another thing that you have to do, something you have to check off a list, but rather something that helps you to get where you want to go. So, thinking about reframing this or simply shifting our perspective can do absolute wonders for your content, for your business and your life as well. But we'll talk about content here. So, as someone who really values human connection, myself, and like I know that you do as well, then I'm really encouraging you right here, right now, the beginning of 2026, to call out those old stories that are constantly fed to you online. So, things like more content equals more success. Oh my goodness, so not true. So being everywhere equals being seen and making more money and becoming rich and successful. So not true as well. And things like do your content this way, this particular way, with this particular trend or this particular tactic, or otherwise you're not going to succeed. And quite frankly, I feel like they are all exhausting stories. So instead, in 2026, your content needs to work with you, not against you, not against your energy, your season, your capacity, your values or beliefs, not against those things, with those things. And this can be a little bit difficult to accept. But I promise you that once you do that, it's going to flow so much easier. The way that I do content, that I create it, that I show up on the platforms is not going to be the same for you. You have different time, energy, and resources right now. I have different time, energy, and resources now than what I did 12 months ago, than what I did 5 years ago. Right? So I really need to accept that and know that content can work with me. So I want you to release those expectations, because what worked for you before may not work for you now. What didn't work for you before definitely won't work now, no matter how hard you push, right? No matter how hard you push, it's not going to work. And that sometimes growth looks like simplifying. It looks like ease rather than pushing or trying harder to be someone you're not. It may actually look less. And in this day and age, right now, connection matters so much more than constant output. So it's really figuring out how to use this superpower that you have of yours to reach the people that you want, to work with in a way that feels easy for you. And also realizing that intention matters more than intensity. So how you choose to showcase your brand and your work and the thought that goes behind all of that matters far more than average half-assed content that's pumped out via AI. It's not real, it's not true, and it's not you. So what should you do? What's going to get you the best result in 2026 and make your content feel so much lighter and easier? Well, it's three things. One, simply seeing content as support for you and your business and not a pressure or a must-do thing or something you have to check off a list. The second thing is having the mindset or the perspective that content is really an opportunity for connection, and it's not an obligation. It's not a should be doing. And the third thing is bringing far more of the beautiful you to your content. And how do you do that? Well, I want you to create the space now and on a regular basis, perhaps quarterly, to think about how much time, energy, and resources do I realistically have right now? And what does this season of life, not just business, require of me? And this is something that we do inside of the content effect in our 90-day content planning. It's that moment to take a breath, to reassess, to look at our objectives, what we're actually trying to achieve with our content, And then what time, energy, and resources do we have to actually make that happen? You could also work out what your minimum viable content is. And if you want to know more about that, go back to episode 167, where I talk about MVC and how it actually saved my sanity. And just flipping the idea that I have to keep on keeping on, no matter what's happening in my outside life, was a real game changer for me to really take that step back and think about what is it that I can create that it's not about the least amount possible. Sometimes it is, but not necessarily about the least amount of content that you create, but what is the most aligned and the most sustainable amount of content that I can create given my time, energy, and resources. And if you did a time audit right now and looked at how many hours a week you have to spend on all of the things in life and business, and think about what you want to spend on different aspects of your life, I guarantee that you're overestimating the amount of time that you have available right now. So, as an example, and I'm still struggling with this at the moment, but I want to spend about 20 hours a week on my business and a maximum of 20 hours on my casual jobs. But I realized that that's a maximum of 3 days worth of casual work. And I'm currently doing about 5, right? So I can't realistically get everything done in my business that I want to get done if I continue down the path of working more casual hours, right? So I know that there is a give and take there. And I want to prioritize my business and my content. So I know that I'm going to have to give up some casual work hours. Now, once you have your minimum viable content in place, it's really about pausing before you create any piece of content, really thinking about your intention before taking that action and choosing only what truly matters. Another perspective shift that you'll need to make, because we are constantly fed that the more content that we pump out, the more that we're particularly on social media, the more successful we're going to be. And I really don't believe that. I believe that if you do the minimum amount that you can with the maximum amount of energy and love, it is going to land so much better than just this content that is shallow and not meaningful and just constantly pumped out. There is a big difference. So in all of this, I guess what I really want you to remember is that content doesn't have to be this big, amazing thing. It doesn't have to be perfect to be really effective. It just needs to be 100% you from the heart. So just as an example, I'm just going to pull out some random numbers here, but say that you're posting on Instagram 5 times a week and you're using reels and carousel as well as a feed and stories, and you're beginning to notice a resistance or a resentment toward creating the content. This in turn leads to some procrastination, and you start to miss days here and there until you figure, why am I even bothering? Why am I bothering showing up if I can't stick to this 5 times a week rule that some person has said that I must do? But then you stop and you take the time to think about your minimum viable content and really decide to choose one intentional piece. Yes, just one. And perhaps it's an email or it's a fortnightly blog at a consistency that's in line with the time that you have available. And imagine if this piece of content was then created from a place of clarity and intention rather than obligation. Imagine how that will land with your audience. The result of all of this is you're going to find that nothing's going to break, right? And that your connection with people will often deepen because they're getting more of you in a more substantial way with a more intentional energy. And so therefore it's easier for you and you see better results. For example, you might get higher value clients, or you might be able to spend more time on outreach or connecting with people. And it's taking up way less time and brain space. Imagine that. Imagine if you could do that. Because too often I see entrepreneurs, and especially heart-led entrepreneurs, choosing the shoulds. I should be doing things a certain way. I should be on these platforms, rather than choosing the ease and alignment because they believe that both can't happen. And I'm not sitting here preaching to you to say, this is how you have to do content. This is what it should look like. It's definitely not me. And that's definitely not my message either. But what I am saying is, I really want you to trust yourself. Trust yourself when it comes to content, that you are where you are meant to be right now and you're doing the things that you're meant to be doing. Accept the fact that you have different seasons and those different seasons will need different approaches. And that's okay. You don't have to keep on keeping on just because you've always done the same thing. And changing the way that you view your content will help lift that heaviness feeling and really make it easier for you to create. Okay, I'd like you to perhaps pause for a moment, take a moment and reflect on how this episode is landing with you right now. You might like to come back to these questions to journal on later, or just take a moment now to answer them out loud. The first question is, what expectations around content am I ready to release as I move into 2026? Second question is, what level of energy and capacity do I realistically have right now? And the last question is, if I led with intention instead of obligation, what will look different? Now, there are no right and wrong answers here. Your awareness of the situation is enough and is what I want you to really focus on right now. So thank you for making it to the end of the first episode of Content with Heart podcast. I really appreciate you being here. And if this conversation in any way, shape or form has resonated with you and you're craving a calmer, a more intentional way to create content, then my book, The Power of Content, is here to support you. It's not a how-to filled with tactics or rules, but really an invitation for you to reconnect with yourself, with your message, and the humans that you are here to serve. So my reminder for today is your content doesn't need more from you. It just needs you to be more present, intentional, connected, and way more like you. Here's to 2026 being a year of lightness, acceptance, and connection with your content. With heart, always.